Hey everyone, and welcome to this video. Today we want to talk about deploying web resources in a Azure DevOps pipeline to your development environment. What we want to achieve is to build our web resources like CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, and then whenever we merge or push something to the master branch, we want to deploy it to the development environment so that we don't have to do it manually all the time. To do so, I use Sparkle from Scott Duro and just run it in the pipeline. Here you can see the project we are using. It's a web resource project. Like mentioned, we have a demo CSS file, demo HTML file, and a demo TypeScript file, which will be on build transformed to a JavaScript file. Let's switch to the Azure DevOps environment and go to the pipelines. We create a new pipeline, which is a build pipeline to build our solution whenever we check it in or push it to the master branch. And then we have a release pipeline, which will automatically trigger and deploy everything to development. So this one we'll call create web res artifact. So, and then we will add some steps here, which is first of all 2 NuGet steps to install the tool and restore our NuGet packages. Next step will be a Visual Studio step, which is a build step to build our solution. And then we have 2 copy file steps that copy the correct files from our temp build folder in the pipeline to our artifacts folder, so that we can then publish artifacts and pick it up with the deploy pipeline or release pipeline. Here we only want to build our web resources solution. Then we have to copy our files, and here we use the web resources folder as the source, and then we copy from there, we copy all the HTML files, or better to say all the files that are in the web resources HTML folder and in the CSS folder and the JS folder. And the target will be our artifact directory, staging directory. And those are the files web resources, or like that. Next step is to copy the Sparkle files as well. And here we use the web resources folder again, but this time from here we directly use or copy the release but and the Sparkle configuration we have there. How to create the release but and the Sparkle configuration, Scott has excellent videos explaining those. And the last step is publishing our staging directory as a drop, as an artifact which is named drop. So this one can now build our solution and publish all the necessary files, so to say. And we will activate a trigger and enable continuous integration. Whenever we make a change or push something to master, this pipeline will trigger automatically. And then we have to create a second pipeline, which is a release pipeline. Empty job is fine. We development for the stage. We rename it to deploy to dev, for example. this one should now take, as an input, should take the artifact our first pipeline has created. Therefore, we create or take the create web resource artifact pipeline, and we always want to have the latest, and it will, our source alias is underscore create web resource artifact. We add it, and then we will add some steps here to deploy it to development. To do so, we will add again NuGet, tool installer, and a restore. And then we have a batch script, which is our release but we will run. And this time we will not actually do a restore. We will change it from restore to custom. And then we say install Sparkle, because we only need the Sparkle NuGet to be installed and not everything we have in our solution or in our repository. And then we have the build we want to, or the batch we want to execute, which is our release but. And here you can see we take it from the system default working directory, and there we take the our input folder, which we have defined in the artifact at the beginning of this pipeline. And then in there we have a folder which is called drop, which comes from our first pipeline. So in the last step in the first pipeline, which was publish artifacts, we defined this as the name of the artifact. And in there we have a release but, which we want to execute or run now. We also need some arguments here, and those are both the connection and the password. And because of this, how we write it here, you can see that those two are variables of this pipeline. So we have to add them as well here. Like mentioned, we have to add two variables. One is the connection, and here we add a connection string to a CDS environment. So my demo environment. And like you can see here, we have the password not in this string because we have a second one, which is a password variable. And here we click this small lock so that it will be or will not be shown. And then I will copy my password. And paste it in here. Let's save. We go back to pipeline and take a look at the triggers, because we want to run this pipeline or this release whenever our first pipeline is ready and creates a new artifact. Therefore, we create this continue deployment trigger. And that's it. We save. So now we can test it. So whenever we now push something to our master branch, it will first trigger our first pipeline, which will create the artifact. When this one is ready, it will create a new release and deploy it to development. Let's just add a variable demo, which doesn't do anything for now. Go to our changes. Change the branch, actually. And then commit it to our master branch. And sync it to Azure DevOps. So now it's pushed to our master branch. And if we take a look at our pipelines here, our create web resources pipeline is running already. So it got triggered directly. Now you can see that this pipeline is ready. We have created one artifact. If we take a look at this one, we will see that we have one folder which is drop. And in this folder we have the release path, the Sparkle JSON, and our web resources, which is one CSS JS file, one HTML, and one CS file. And our release should be triggered directly as well. Yeah, it is running at the moment. So the deployment went well as well. So if we take a look at our solution now and reload the page, it should contain 3 web resources as well. And here you can see them successfully deployed to our development environment. I hope this helped you and you can optimize your development process. With this pipelines, you slip the need of deploying manually to development. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to help you, and thank you for listening today.